Hello everyone. Shashank Gupta at iQuanta welcomes you to yet another passage to practice. Let's dig deeper. And yes, this is conversational analysis that we are doing. This is the third in the series, and again, we are going to work upon a different kind of a thing. The topic would be different, the genre would be different. On one hand, we were talking about, we would be covering economics and we would be covering philosophy, art, science, anything, right? History would be there. All this because uh, we saw a conversation analysis coming across in your IPMAT Indore this year. So of course, the chances are quite high. The questions are quite different from what you see generally. So, yes, of course, it would be a nice thing to go across and study and practice this kind of RCs for ourselves, right? More or less, this is important that we must learn a lesson from this that without practice, nothing is going to work for you. So it is quintessential that you stay ahead of your peers, your competitive friends, and that is only one way that you follow us and go through these questions so that it does not go wrong. Okay, so let's move forward and let's go to the next question. Let's read the passage. What does it have to offer to us? Hmm. So the new pattern conversation analysis 3. Let's see. So Dr. Aris, he is the host, also the interviewer. Today we are exploring the silico-organic shift. We are moving beyond simple drug discovery into what you call programmable biology. Okay, fine. So important part is it is differentiating between simple drug discovery and the new thing around the block, which is programmable biology. What is the fundamental change in how we view the biological cell today? So he wants to know what are the changes that are coming across in the biological cell today, right? Sarah Jenkins, that is the lead researcher. If you look at the biotech giants of the late 20th century, they were Menders. So they are talking about biotech giants, which means um, the biotech companies we are talking about, right? They were called as the Menders. They found a broken chemical pathway and tried to patch it with a molecule. Fine. So they used to find the problems and they tried to patch it up. They tried to come across with a molecule out there. It was artisanal. So what is artisanal? Artisanal is something which is traditional, and because the artisan is involved in that, so the artisan is not going to work upon in any new way. He's going to start working with the traditional way, and that is why sometimes artisanal can also have a negative thought process. Why? Because it has got its limitations. It would take a lot of time, right? So see what is written after that: slow and hit or miss. So it is always on trial basis, right? But today, a new set of players has emerged that we call architects. So, so major problem. There are two things we have understood. One is the menders we are talking about. The other is the architects we are talking about. To an architect, the cell isn't just a bag of chemicals. So they are not taking cells just as it was seen before. It is an operating system. So as per them, it is an operating system. They don't just find cures, okay? They write code using DNA. And what happens out here? It just does not find the cure only. They are also they write code using DNA. So they use the DNA and they write the codes, almost like programmable. Cells are programmable, right? Dr. Aris, how do you distinguish between a Mender company and an architect company in terms of market behavior? So now the economics comes into play. It comes down to what we call iterative velocity. Iterative is something which is repetitive. Okay. In traditional pharma, which is the Menders, the time from a hypothesis to a failed trial is years. So, what happens from a hypothesis? So, when the assumption is made to a failed trial, to a point where it actually fails, right? Is years. It takes a lot of time for a hypothesis to fail, right? Which means the outcome takes a lot of time. In the architect arena, so when we talk in terms of the architect companies, what happens out there? Using AI driven protein folding and synthetic biology, the iterative velocity is 10 times higher, which means what is the iterative velocity out here? Look out here, it comes down to what we call iterative velocity. So the major thing was about the time it takes, right? This is the important part. The time from a hypothesis to a failed trial is years. Fine. So, but in iterative velocity, it is 10 times higher. So, which means it happens very quickly. We measured the failure to pivot ratio. Architects fail fast and cheap. So, architect companies, they would fail, okay, but it would be fast and cheap, which means that they get the time and the money to go across and do it again. Fine. Or maybe find an alternate for that. Menders feel slow and expensive. So it's quite expensive. While Menders still provide the foundational health infrastructure of the world. So Menders still provide the foundational health infrastructure of the world, which means like they are still there and they are still providing, they are still doing what they are doing. It is basically the foundational health infrastructure. Architects are hogging nearly 60% of the new venture capital because they aren't just selling a drug, they are selling a platform that can generate infinite drugs. Okay, so what is happening on the other hand? Architects are taking up, eating up almost 60% of the new venture capital. So whoever the venture capitalist is, they prefer architects over uh, they prefer architects to menders, right? Because out here they are not just selling drugs, they are selling a platform, okay, and where infinite drugs can be created or generated, right? So where is the ultimate economic alpha in this new arena? So where exactly is the real moolah, real profit? The alpha isn't in the manufacturing, that's becoming a commodity. Fine. So alpha is not into a manufacturing anymore. The profit is in the biological IP library. Okay. It's where the high intensity R&D lives. That's where the research and development lives. Okay. These architect firms are the genomic engines like the genetics, right? The molecular engines of the future. They are the blueprints from which all future medicine will be printed. So, in the long run, these architects would become the most profitable thing, right? Okay. Let's come across to the question. In the context of the conversation, iterative velocity most closely refers to. So the question directly comes across. Iterative velocity, we just read it and it was talking about, here it is. It comes down to what we call iterative velocity, the traditional pharma. The time from hypothesis to failed trial is years. So it was talking about something to do with the time to repeat the thing or something. The gradual evolution of chemical molecules over several decades of research. Evolution of chemical molecules over several decades of research. Okay, fine. But when I say iterative velocity and if I say decades of research, this is more towards Menders. It is only talking about the Menders point of view, right? So, is it about that? Is it that iterative velocity is only talking about the Menders and not the architects? So, it is actually a point which would decide or discuss both, right? So, therefore, A part cannot be an answer. Let's go to B. The speed and frequency at which a company can test, fail, and refine biological designs. Okay. So yes, it was what they were talking about, that Menders took a lot of time to fail. And while they are architects, on the other hand, they are quite cheap and they fail very quickly, right? The failure comes very quickly, which means like they get the chance to go about and refine the design, right? So B part we can keep. C, the steady reliance on established clinical trial protocols used by Mender companies. Again, this is going towards Mender companies, which we know that is not the thought process about iterative. Iterative specifically does not work for Mender companies, so C part goes away. The predictable and stable growth patterns of traditional pharmaceuticals, it was a easy elimination, so D part goes away. The right answer has to be B part. Question number one, the right answer will be B. Let's come across to question number two. In the context of the conversation, the term architects refers to what? So now the question means architects, what do they stand for? Is it the physical engineers who build high tech labs for chemical synthesis? Is it about physical engineers? Okay. Regulatory bodies that write the legal code for DNA sequencing. Is it the regulatory body? Companies that treat biological system as programmable platforms. Okay. And traditional firms that, okay, one thing I'm sure, it is not a traditional firm because they are the new age thing, right? That's what they came across. They said like new set of players has emerged that we call architects, right? So which means it is not traditional. So D part can easily be removed. Now second part, were we talking about physical engineers? No, it was not, because it said but today a new set of players. So they were actually talking about some kind of company or industry or firm. So A part is talking about physical people out there, which is not going to work. So A part goes away. B part says regulatory bodies that write the legal code for DNA sequencing. They are not the regulatory bodies. They are basically, regulatory bodies would be something which is like the government is going across. They have those kind of license and access, right, and rights. So we are not talking about that. So regulatory bodies, they are not. B part can be removed, and thus the right answer that comes across is C. What are they? So architects are companies that treat biological systems as programmable platforms, and that is why what is going to happen, these architect firms are, the last line clearly states it, these architect firms are the genomic engines of the future, right? They are the blueprints from which all future medicines will be printed. So companies that treat biological system as programmable platforms, even programmable, here it is, isn't just a bag of chemicals, it's an operating system. They don't just find cures, they write code using DNA. So this part also tells us clearly that this is going to be, C is going to be the right answer for question number 2. Third, what is the primary difference identified between Menders and architects? So what is the difference they have? Menders attract more capital. No, because they simply said, see out here, architects are hogging nearly 60% of the new venture capital. So therefore A is not the answer. B says architects capture a disproportionate share of funding despite being a newer sector. Yes, we can keep that, because it simply talked about like it was taking away how much? It was taking almost like 60% of the venture capital, right? So yes, that's why we can keep it. C, both sectors receive equal funding. Now you can see it very well that I read B, I thought that B can be an answer, but then again, I need to read all the rest because there might be something which is much better than B as well. So even in that case, we would go across and we would check that. Okay. C part, both sectors receive equal funding but use it for different intent. They are not getting equal funding, so we can stop it out here itself. D part says Menders are more capital intensive because their failure rate is significantly higher. It is longer and not higher. We really don't know whether their failure rate is high or low, We only know that their failure, it takes a lot of time, longer than architects, right? So D part is not working for us, it goes away. The only option which is given across is B is the right answer. So question number 3, answer has to be B, right? Okay, let's move on to the question number 4. The phrase failure to pivot ratio is used to measure. So what does it measure? So here it is. We measured the failure to pivot ratio. Architects fail fast and cheap. Okay, so which means like some kind of money has to be involved in this. Menders fail slow and expensive. Okay, let's see if anything around this line is written or given to us. How often a company's stock price drops after a failed drug trial? There was nothing that was talked about stock prices, so A part is not my answer. B says the inability of traditional pharmaceutical companies to adopt new AI tools. Mm, we never talked about its inability. We never talked about that they were unable to come across and adopt new AI tools, right? They never went out there, or it is not discussed. So let's not get out of the context. C. The efficiency with which a company abandons a failing idea to try a new one. Should I keep it? What is failure to pivot? The efficiency with which a company abandons a failing idea, okay, to try a new one. Let's see, is anyone doing that? See, architects fail fast and cheap, right? While Menders still provide the foundational health infrastructure of the world, architects are hogging nearly 60% of the new because they are just selling, they are not just selling a drug, they are selling a platform that can generate infinite drugs. Okay, not being talked about out here. But yes, we can infer from this line that architects fail fast and cheap. So if they fail fast, they have more time to try across the new ones, right? So yes, I can keep the C part because it can be easily inferred from that. Let's come across to D. The total number of successful drugs produced by a biological IP library. So it is, again, it becomes very, very specific. And it was not talked about, biological IP library was not talked in context of failure to pivot. And therefore, D part can be removed again. And the only option that works for us is C. Fine. Elimination will always help you in this way. So all you have to understand is how to go about and eliminate the options that you feel will not be the answer, right? There has to be a justification, because this justification is going to give you a good what scoring, right? And that score really matters. Let's go to the next question. Fifth, according to Sarah Jenkins, where is the most significant economic alpha located? In the mass manufacturing of biological commodities. So they are talking about where is exactly that economic alpha. So if you, this is actually a direct question coming across from the last uh, part of the conversation. The alpha isn't in the manufacturing that's becoming a commodity. The profit is in the biological IP library. It's where the high intensity R&D lives. These architects firms are the genomic engineer of the future. They are the blueprints from which all future medicines will be printed. Okay, fine. So let's see. Uh, as per Sarah, where exactly is the economic alpha? In the mass manufacturing of biological commodities for global health? Is it so? No. Actually, she was against it. She said that isn't in the manufacturing, that's becoming a commodity, right? So A part goes away. It is not in the mass manufacturing. B part says in the physical delivery of medicines to patients in the foundational infrastructure. So is it about the supply chain, as in the delivery of something? The delivery part they did not talk about it. So B part can also be removed. C says in the intellectual property and R&D blueprints of genomic. platforms, and that's what it was talked about, becoming a commodity. The profit is in the biological IP library. It's where the high intensity R&D lives, right? Architect firms are the genomic engineers. So yes, engine, sorry, and that's why we can simply keep C for the timing, because it is talking on the same ground in the intellectual property and R&D blueprints of genomic platforms. Yes, we can keep it. D, in the artisanal and hit or miss patch work of traditional chemical pathways, which is definitely not. So that is not the economic alpha. So D part goes away. That is more towards commodity, right? So what is the right answer? The right answer is C. In the intellectual property and R&D blueprints of genomic platforms. And so question number 5, the answer has to be C. Let's come across to the last question for the passage. Which of the following best describes Mender company's role in the current world? Okay, what is their role? They are obsolete entities. When I say obsolete, it is going extreme. We are not saying that they are no more. So A part definitely cannot be my answer. B part says they are highly dynamic wizards that focus on protein folding and AI. But then again, we were discussing Mender, and Mender were the ones which were talking about traditional approach, right? So if it is traditional, definitely it cannot be highly dynamic wizards that focus on protein folding and AI. This AI part gave it away, and B cannot be our answer, so we can remove B as well. C says they provide the essential traditional systems that keep the world running. They provide the essential traditional system that keep the world running. Should I keep it? Okay, let's see. Here, while Menders still provide the foundational health infrastructure of the world, right? This line. So if you come across, you can see it very well. Only a single line, right? Which means every single line is important to us, and we need to read them, because unless we go through them, we might miss a line, and we might get confused. Okay, so we don't want that. Therefore, you need to be very attentive when you are reading all these passages. They provide the essential traditional systems that keep the world running, right? Health hai. So yes, as per health, it is world running and everything. Traditional system, because that's how it is going about, and they provide the essential, which is basically again talking about foundational health infrastructure of the world. So yes, I'll keep C part for the time being. Let's go to the D part. They are the primary source of new venture capital in the biotech arena. They are the primary source. New venture capital, we don't know that is it the primary source or not. We just know that yes, it has taken a major share in that, does not make it primary, right? So D part goes away. Okay, so what is the right answer? C. And moreover, I'm so sorry, if you look at it, D, it is actually talking about the architect one, right? It is talking about the architect field, right? The architect companies. They are the ones who are become, they might have become the primary source of the new venture capital in the biotech, because they are taking away the 60%. So maybe or maybe not, but definitely Mender are not the ones who are taking the hogging the new venture capital. So therefore D part can easily be removed. My right answer is C. Fine. So question number 6, the answer is C. Students, yet another RC, and I believe that you are moving towards your confidence, you're moving towards a better confidence, right? And a better accuracy level, right? So, with time, with me, you would be gaining more confidence, and of course, we would be getting into all these different kind of genres, so that you don't feel left out when there is actually an RC out there waiting for you, right? So this is Shashank on behalf of iQuanta, saying bye bye. Let's meet with the next RC.